About 50% of Asian Americans today live in fear, and 80% feel like they don't belong. Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Kim, and I'm right across from the Japanese American Museum here in Los Angeles at the Democracy Forum. There's a conference happening today. It's called Asian Exclusion and the Church, Ripples from the 1924 Immigration Act. You may have heard me say in the past that the Korean American story is a great American story for Korean Americans and all Americans. But I would say that when I learned about Asian American history many years ago, I always admired the Japanese American story so much. And so today is 2024, but if we go back 100 years, then that's 1924. The Immigration Act, which really excluded Asians from coming to the United States. So that's a very important date for Japanese Americans, Asian Americans, and all Americans. But then this helps you to think about what kinds of conditions must it have been in the United States for the Asian Americans that were living in this country at that time. And so today we're going in focused as a lens to actually the Japanese American community, and more specifically the Japanese American church. So if you could not become a citizen of the United States, oftentimes these folks were called aliens, not being able to buy land, there are anti-miscegenation laws, segregation that was in place, and eventually for Japanese Americans during World War II, it was Japanese Americans, 2/3 of them American-born, who were interned in the United States of America. And interesting statistics that Dr. Sang raised was how 50% of Asian Americans today live in fear, and 80% feel like they don't belong in the United States of America. And so I was just reminded of a quote from Pastor Suzuki as he preached his last sermon at his church here in Los Angeles prior to being sent to a concentration camp during World War II, where he said, this is the last Sunday that we're going to be able to worship in our own chapel. A Japanese American, mainly to Nisei, second generation Japanese Americans, having to say that to his congregation. Today I was also reminded by the idea of Japanese Americans standing up for others, having been themselves marginalized. Oftentimes people see America as kind of a melting pot. You come to the United States, you become this, whatever that is, right? American. But I love the salad bowl concept, where you got all these different groups, all these different stories, and each distinct group kind of adds value to the whole. I'm just gonna double down on this. I'm gonna double down on knowing your story, telling your story, listening to one another's story with empathy and respect, and doing something good with your story. But I want to add something to that today, because once again, when we encourage our students to know their story, sometimes they don't. And I think it's so important to have that mentor, that teacher to come alongside you to help you know your story. And then listening to many stories, because everyone's story is so different, especially in the Pan-Asian context. So whereas I might know maybe a little bit about, let's say, Korean American history, I might not know as much about some of the other groups like Cambodian American history or Thai American history, but I want to. And these are such great stories. And I think among the Pan-Asian groups, we need to have more of those opportunities to listen to one another's stories, because I think we're gonna find many different kinds of stories of resilience that can strengthen one another.